You wake up to the smell before anything else. Diesel, sweat, metal, and something rotting you cannot quite place. This is your world now, hundreds of feet below the Atlantic Ocean, sealed inside a steel tube with over 40 other men. No sunlight, no fresh air. Just the constant hum of engines and the distant, ever-present fear of death pressing in from every direction. Because this is your life inside a German U-boat during the Second World War. But your experience changes entirely depending on who you are and where you stand in the chain of command. So let's take you through every level of this crew, because no matter your rank, no matter your role, survival is never guaranteed down here. You begin at the very bottom, as a new recruit. You are young, probably 18 or 19 years old. Maybe you volunteered out of patriotism or adventure. Maybe you did not fully understand what you were signing up for. Most did not. Your job is everything and nothing at the same time. Clean. You carry supplies through passageways so narrow that two men can barely pass each other. You scrub black oil off machinery until your hands bleed. You squeeze through compartments that no one else wants to enter, crawling past torpedoes and tangled wiring just to reach a valve that needs turning. You do not have a bunk of your own. Instead, you hot bunk, meaning you sleep in someone else's bed while they are on shift, still warm from the body that just left it. Sleep is a luxury you learn not to take for granted. Food is whatever you can grab between duties, and privacy simply does not exist. You are surrounded by pipes, wires, machinery, and men who have not seen daylight in weeks. The air is thick with moisture and body odor. Oxygen is rationed by circumstance. Every sound matters, every creak of the hull, every distant thud from above. Because if something goes wrong down here, you are the last to be told and the first to be blamed. But you survive this. You adapt, and you move up. Now you are a machinist, an engineer working in the belly of the boat. Your world is louder here. You live near the engines, the giant diesel monsters that power the submarine when it runs on the surface, and the quieter electric motors that take over when you dive. These machines are the heartbeat of the vessel. If they fail, everyone dies. It is that simple. Your entire existence is monitoring. Pressure gauges, fuel levels, temperature readings. Every vibration in the hull tells you something. A small fluctuation in pressure could mean a seal is failing. An unusual temperature spike could mean a fire about to start. You cannot afford to miss anything because one overlooked detail could flood the entire vessel or leave you stranded, powerless, hundreds of miles from shore with enemy warships circling above. And it is unbearably hot down here. Temperatures near the engine room regularly climb above 40 degrees Celsius. Sweat drips off you constantly. Your uniform is always soaked through. Your hands are permanently stained black with oil and grease. But you do not complain, because complaining wastes energy, and up above you, depth charges might already be dropping. You keep your head down. You keep the engines running. That is your contribution to staying alive. Then comes the day you are assigned to the torpedo room. Now, things get serious in a completely different way. You are responsible for the U-boat's primary weapon, long, heavy, deadly metal cylinders that cost a fortune to build and carry the weight of every mission on their warheads. You load them into tubes manually, a process that requires strength, precision, and nerve. You maintain them constantly, checking mechanisms, checking seals, checking the delicate internal components that make the difference between a successful strike and a catastrophic malfunction. When the order comes, fire, everything depends on you executing perfectly. One mistake and the torpedo misfires inside the tube. In the worst case, it detonates right there. The boat is gone in seconds, every man with it. But even when everything works correctly, the tension does not end. After firing, you wait in total silence, counting seconds in your head, listening for a distant explosion that tells you the torpedo found its target. Because if you hear nothing, it means the enemy ship is still out there, and now it knows exactly where you are, and now it is coming for you. The silence after a missed shot is one of the most terrifying sounds a man can hear on a U-boat. Moving through the boat, you find yourself at the radio station. As the radio operator, you are the submarine's only connection to the outside world. Messages from Naval Command, Enemy ship positions, emergency orders, weather warnings, everything flows through you first. But your role carries a burden that never fully leaves you. Every transmission you send out can be intercepted. Allied forces had entire departments dedicated to listening, to triangulating the positions of German submarines based on radio signals alone. Which means every time you reach for that transmitter, you risk giving away your location to every enemy vessel within range. You weigh every word. You keep messages short. Sometimes you maintain complete radio silence for days, receiving nothing but static, knowing that the silence itself might be protecting you. You decode encrypted communications and pass them quietly to the captain. You watch his face for any reaction that tells you whether the news is good or bad. Usually, it is neither. Usually, it is just another set of coordinates and another set of orders pointing you deeper into dangerous water. Somewhere in the forward section sits the navigator, and now that role is yours. You guide this entire vessel through storms, through total darkness, through waters that are charted with enemy convoys and hidden minefields. You have no GPS, no satellites, no digital instruments of any kind. You have maps, a compass, a chronometer, and the calculations running constantly through your mind. Your position estimates must be exact. A navigational error of even a few kilometers could send the submarine directly into an enemy patrol route. Underwater, the challenge doubles. Because you cannot see the stars, cannot confirm your location visually, and must rely entirely on dead reckoning, calculating where you are based on where you were, how fast you have been traveling, and for how long. It demands complete mental focus at all times. Every life on board depends on the accuracy of your calculations. When the submarine surfaces, you are sometimes the watch officer standing in the conning tower. Fresh air hits your face for the first time in days. The open ocean stretches out in every direction. After weeks below, it feels almost surreal. This much open space, this much sky. But this is not a moment to breathe and appreciate it. You are scanning constantly. The horizon, the clouds, any shadow that might be an aircraft or a destroyer. Being caught on the surface is one of the most dangerous positions a U-boat can be in. Enemy patrol aircraft carry bombs and depth charges. They appear with no warning. When you spot one, you have seconds. Dive, dive, dive! The hatch slams shut above you. You throw yourself below. The submarine tilts forward and drops fast, water rushing into the ballast tanks. You watch the depth gauge climbing, 30 meters, 60, 80, and you hold your breath until you are deep enough that the bombs falling above cannot reach you. Sometimes they can, sometimes they do. And now, as first officer, you are second in command of everything. You manage the crew, you relay orders, you monitor morale in a space where morale is the first thing to break. You see exhaustion turning into fear, and fear turning into something worse. Men who have been underwater for 3 weeks start to crack in small ways. They snap at each other. They stare at nothing. They move through their duties like men already half gone. You have to hold the crew together, keep discipline without crushing the last bit of spirit they have left, and do it all while carrying your own private terror in silence. Because showing fear as first officer means the crew loses faith. And a crew without faith is a submarine already sinking. And then there is the captain. Everything rests on you. You planned this mission. You ordered this dive. You chose this route through enemy waters. You studied the convoy schedules and calculated the attack angle and gave the order to fire. Every single decision that led to this moment came from you, and every consequence of those decisions is yours to carry. You sit in the control room surrounded by instruments and men who are looking to your face for signals of what to feel. The readings come in, enemy convoy spotted, torpedoes away, and then depth charges. The first explosion is distant, the second is closer. The third shakes the entire hull so violently that men grab pipes just to stay upright. Lights flicker, a gauge shatters. Water begins seeping through a joint in the hull that was fine an hour ago. The crew looks at you. You give the only order that makes sense. Hold steady. You dive deeper. 200 meters. The hull groans under the pressure, a deep metallic sound that no training ever fully prepares you for. It could give way at any moment. The depth charges keep coming. And in that moment, the truth of this entire war becomes completely clear to you. Most U-boat missions do not end in triumph. They end in silence. Out of the thousands of men who served in the German submarine fleet during the Second World War, roughly 3 out of every 4 never came home. No graves, no final words, just submarines that went quiet somewhere beneath the Atlantic and were never heard from again. You lived every day of this war without seeing sunlight, without knowing if the next explosion would be your last, without any guarantee that the men beside you would still be breathing in an hour. Every man on this boat, from the youngest recruit scrubbing oil off a pipe to the captain staring down a depth gauge at 200 meters, lived the same brutal truth. You were trapped underwater, hunted from above, and hoping, just hoping, that you would not become another name never spoken again, another ghost lost forever beneath the waves,